Hey Critical Analysis, this is your video for week 14, if you can believe it. We're only having 15 weeks, so we're almost done. This week is lighter because obviously we have wrapped up now the last chapter of our textbook with last week's chapter 10, but I did want to just kind of really quickly touch base with you on my labs, on the mastery skills assessments, because some of you are still really behind, and without this portion of the class completed, you cannot pass the class. And so I just really want to strongly suggest to get these done as soon as possible. They are due next week. They are due by May 9th. So depending on when you watch this video, you may only have a little over a week to get them done. So Sunday, May 9th, all skills are done, and there are 10 skills, and you have to get an average of 80% on all 10. And I have uploaded a video, as you can see as I go through here. There's a video that goes along with every single skill, so I don't leave you hanging. In some of them, as you can see, I do over two posts, both the post tests in there. So I do go over every single one, and I want to make sure that I describe it clearly. I give you enough information. So you'll see in this week, the critical thinking one was already open back in week 13. So that's your newest one. I'm recording this actually in week 12. So that's why you're not seeing it open right now. But this will be open in week 13. And then your very last one, combined skills, is going to be open this week, week 14, as your very last one to finish. So I have reached out a couple times to a couple people saying, hey, you're a little behind on your mastery skills. And for some of you that did kind of, help remind you to get those done, but please make sure you get those done. They're 25% of your grade. Without them, mathematically, you can't pass because you need an 80% or higher to pass the class. Okay, so that being said, we are going to go ahead and scroll all the way down. Again, you don't have as far to scroll, but to week 14. This is chapters 6 through 10 review. Yay! So again, we're almost done. So this is really just the vocabulary test, much like you had in chapters 1 through 5. So this should look very similar, but I do want to say you still have a discussion post for this week. So your discussion post is still due for attendance purposes by Wednesday, April 28th. And you can see it basically says, review your post from week 2. So what I'll do is I will have week 2 post open and viewable. So you can go back and see, well, what did I post? And it's when you talked about your strengths and areas of improvement. And what you're going to do is reassess. How do you feel about those two areas now? Did you work on your areas of improvement? Did you discover any new strengths? Maybe did you discover new areas that you need to continue working on? So it's just a chance for a self-reflection. So just kind of using your original self-analysis from week 2, way back in January, to see where you are now that it's May, how have I grown? What do I still need to work on? So that's your discussion post. Again, don't forget you need to respond or interact 10 times throughout the semester with fellow classmates in the discussion forum for your participation points. Some of you have not done that yet either, so you're going to have a lot of catching up to do in weeks 14 and 15, responding to and interacting with classmates. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and this is not going to be viewable by the time you see this video. Don't worry about that up there. We're going to go ahead and get into the materials folder. And here's your chapter 6 through 10 study guide. So I'm going to pull that up right here, and I'm just going to go through the words with you and then talk to you about the test. All right, so chapter 6. With chapter 6, we are going back to right after a break. So, like late March is when we did chapter 6. So accountability is when you take responsibility for your actions. If you're accountable for something, you are taking responsibility. Controversial is something that can be debated. Maybe people have opinions on it. It is open for discussion, sometimes a little heated discussion. So politics is usually, you can find almost anything in politics to be controversial, it seems. Exonerate means to find to be like innocent. So if someone's exonerated of their crimes, they were found innocent and, maybe charges dropped. Vice versa, or on the other hand, incarcerated means jailed, that someone has been jailed, they've been found guilty, and they are put in jail. Injustice means that it's kind of what it sounds like, unjust. It's not fair. Justice has not been served. So injustice, not fair. Oppression is to be held back or held down, whether it's on an individual level or a group level. So being oppressed means you've not been allowed to either participate in or involved in something. Perpetrator is like a suspect of a crime, often abbreviated like perp. Perpetrator is someone who has allegedly done the crime that is being looked at. And then unresolved is, again, kind of what it sounds like. It's just not been resolved. It has not been figured out or, kind of hashed out, maybe unresolved issues or something hasn't been unresolved. You're still trying to figure out the problem. That's chapter 6. All right, chapter 7. This is back from end of March, beginning of April. Alienated means you kind of feel like you've been alone, like you're unhappy about that. If you're alienated, you might feel like, you don't quite fit in with others, or you've been kind of pushed to the side. Maybe you're new someplace, new in the workplace, new at a school. You feel alienated because you're not quite been accepted yet. Compassion is just having you care for someone. You show them that you care, you have empathy, you are trying to show kindness. Jargon is workplace vocabulary. So for instance, in the field of education, in my field of teaching, like pedagogy, your ontological viewpoints, things like that would be jargon, because someone outside of the field of education is not going to go around talking about pedagogy because it's not what they're interested in. Now, the medical field has its own sense of, jargon, lots of words that are being used that people outside the medical field are not going to know. So it's vocabulary that is really specific to a particular field. Tolerate is to be able to put up with, how much can you tolerate? How much can you bear? Whether it's, alcohol tolerance, as one of the readings suggested, or if it's like, I cannot tolerate his behavior. How much can you put up with? Unpretentious means very honest, simple. You're not showy. You're not going to kind of show off or be kind of flamboyant or exaggerate. All right. Chapter 8, and now we are in the first to second weeks of April. Aspire means that you are trying to achieve. I aspire to become, an IT manager. I aspire to become an entrepreneur. You're working toward, you hope to become. Culminate or culmination is that high point. It's kind of what everyone is looking forward to. Sometimes it also tends to be what wraps everything up. The event was culminated by fireworks or something. It's kind of that high point and it wraps everything up. Impulsivity is when you do something without thinking. So impulsive, you're not necessarily thinking through. It's kind of you act out of just on the spot. Impulses also have to do with our brain activity. Impulses in the brain and how they are firing off kind of neurons and electrical signals. Phenomenon is an extraordinary occurrence. So phenomenon, I always like to use an example of solar eclipse, because it doesn't happen all the time, but it's really extraordinary and it's observable and it's something that people can look forward to. Plausible means, believable, credible. If someone sounds plausible, they might have facts or evidence of some sort to back up their claim. Self-analysis is when you take a good hard look at yourself and really think and, evaluate your actions or thoughts or behaviors. And then traumatic is something really upsetting. So maybe a car accident can be traumatic. Maybe some kind of death in the family can be really traumatic. There's lots of ways we can be traumatized, physically, emotionally, mentally. So that's traumatic. All right. Chapter 9. Now we're getting a little bit more recent. This is mid-April. Bias is when you have an opinion. So if you are biased, you definitely feel one way or the other about something. Ethical is right versus wrong in the workplace. What are the expectations of behavior? Facilitate means to make something a little easier. So if I facilitate a conversation, I'm making it easier. A facilitator, facilitate, make easy. Impede, get in the way. So if you are impeding something or someone, you are getting in the way. Not going to class can impede your progress. Insolvent means you're unable to pay debts, basically. You're not able to, pay back what it could be money. It could be time too. It doesn't always have to be money, but you're unable to kind of pay back what is owed. Objective in chapter 9's case means no opinion. So it's the opposite of bias. You have no opinion. You are, neutral, straightforward. Philanthropic is when you are giving. Again, a lot of people think money, but it can also be your time, your energy. So philanthropic is giving. And then scrutiny, to be under like really harsh judgment, to really look at things in an analytic sort of way. Okay, which brings us to chapter 10. Chapter 10 was the end of April, so we are very close to these words. Hopefully you are remembering these. Inclusive, to include all, all encompassing. Jaundice is that condition which can affect, like different organs of your body, the yellowing of the skin and the whites of the eyes. Petition is when you are trying to convince someone to do something. You're trying to, and it literally can be like an actual paper pencil petition, like you sign your name, or you can go and you can talk to people, but you're petitioning, you're trying to get them to convince to do something. It's kind of a formal process to get something started or get something going. Spawn means to create. I know this is awful, but there was like a movie years ago. It's like the spawn of Satan. And like it created like kind of little demons. So it's like to come into an existence or to multiply or cause to happen. Again, I know it's a weird example, but stimulate is to encourage interest or motivation in, and unanimity is, all in agreement. We all agree. We're all on the same page. Okay, so those are your words, and hopefully they all seem familiar, and you might even still have your individual vocabulary words to look at from each chapter. So now we're at the chapter 6 through 10 test, and this is due by Sunday, May 2nd. You'll put this in the Dropbox. So please make sure that you really take a look at the questions so that, you're answering the question. I guess that's the big thing, is making sure that you are answering the question. So like this is, 2 terms of jargon associated with college. So what are words that you hear around college that are specific to the college atmosphere? What is an example? Describe a time. Give 2 examples. So please make sure you really pay attention to the question. That's the big thing on this part. Just answer the question. Don't just define the word. Part B, I really just want to hit on this hard again. Putting the word not in front of a word is not going to fix a sentence, guys. Okay. That doesn't tell me anything other than you know how to put the word not in front of a sentence. So if you said the workers in charge of the company suffer from not oppression for many years, hopefully even reading that out loud, you can hear that it doesn't sound right. So try to get the word not out of your vocabulary for this section and do something else with the rest of the sentence. Take a couple words out, replace a couple words, rearrange the sentence completely, whatever you need to do. And 2 of them are correct as written. 2. It tells you right up here in the directions. So if you have the word correct written 5 times, you're really easily losing points because you didn't try to correct the sentence. So please make sure that you pay attention to those directions. And then finally, fill in the blank. You're not going to use all those options, but there's your fill in the blank. Okay, so when you're done with that, per usual, you'll go into the assignment, into the Dropbox, Sunday, May 2nd. This is a 50-point test. All right, so again, for this week, again, don't worry about this up here. This will be deleted by the time you see this video. You are going to review 6 through 10 words, complete the 6 through 10 test, drop it by Sunday, May 2nd, and then don't forget to post in the week 14 discussion board, which makes you go back and review your week 2 post and kind of self-reflect again, or as one of our words says, self-analyze, do a self-analysis over your strengths and areas of improvement from the beginning of the semester. All right. We only have 1 more week after this, guys. Make sure those mastery skills are done. Make sure everything's caught up because we are almost to the finish line. Until next time.